All right, did you see those exit polls? What was terrorism? 8%, 10%? Biggest issue on voters' minds. Economy, 90% on most voters' minds. Biggest issue in this year's elections. We got to start talking to CEOs. Mike Jackson's in studio, chairman and CEO of AutoNation. Mike, what's your sense of what does this mean? What's it mean to the economy? And I'm not just talking about President-elect Obama. I'm talking about the makeup of Congress now.
Well, I think Obama's win shows America is the land of possibility. And since we have a crisis of confidence and trust at the moment, I think there's a lot of positive of that. He also exhibited tremendous leadership throughout his campaign, real executive skill. And, you know, that's a question anytime you talk about a senator coming over to the White House. But he put a team together at the beginning of the campaign. That same team is in place today. No internal dissension throughout the entire campaign, stayed on message throughout. Very impressive, and that gives me, as a Republican, some optimism that a lot of confidence can be pivoted off of this election win.
You look at the way it was run in terms of hardball, not giving up, never taking anything for granted, right to the end yesterday.
And, you know, so congratulations to Obama on the win, but it is also as much a repudiation of the stewardship of the leadership of the Republican Party.
And
I know many Republicans, and I'm a Republican, who are sitting there saying, you know, we deserve to lose.
Right, but also the financial crisis, which has lots of blames on both sides of the aisle for the past 10 years.
If the election had been in the summer, it might have been a much different story.
Yes, but it wasn't. And was not necessarily McCain's finest moment, wherein he suspended his campaign and ran back to Washington and got reconnected to President Bush standing there in the White House, just reminded everybody of a lot of other things that happened over the last 8 years.
He rebelled right in his face. Obama and Bush were on the same side.
So it was not the Republican Party's finest moment. Let's put it that way. So I think as far as what it means for the economy, I would say it's 3 a.m. and the phone is ringing. And Obama doesn't have till inauguration like a president-elect usually does. He needs to know that the economy is in crisis.
Commercial paper markets are flowing. LIBOR has been coming down. It's not 3 a.m. from a month and a half ago either, though.
There is serious damage that's been done to the real economy.
Right.
And credit is by no means back to normal, and we still have a long way to go.
He's not president until January 20th anyway.
We don't have till January 20th to sit around. We would all like to know who his Secretary of Treasury is going to be. I think that's the most important appointment that has to become clear in the next week or so. And again, I think it's an opportunity to reignite confidence and trust across America, which is dramatically lacking at the moment.
You think he is moved left by this hardcore elements, or do you think that he is now able to move to the center now that he doesn't need to win an election?
Well, thank goodness we don't have 60 votes Democratic in the U.S. Senate. I would be...
Because that would have meant what?
That means there's no balance.
I understood, but how would that have
Well, then there's no stopping an extreme liberal agenda, and let's talk about what they are. I believe in a progressive tax system. We have a progressive tax system, but there has to be a balance. And job creation in America, which is the issue, is done by small business and entrepreneurs. And if you dramatically increase the marginal tax rates on entrepreneurs who are already taking risk on leverage, sweat equity, and their financial equity, and you want to increase the tax on that, you are definitely going to slow down the creation of jobs. Second, trade policy. You know, America is great because of trade policy.
Right.
And finally, the biggest one is labor. And I look at our industry, there's two automobile industries in the U.S., unionized and non-unionized. And to do away with the secret ballot on the selection of an election is the most un-American thing I've ever heard. Now, I've lived through organizing as a worker, as a mechanic. And I sat there under tremendous peer pressure and union pressure, and the only way I could get back to work was to sign the card, knowing that I had a secret ballot where ultimately you get to vote one way or the other. Yeah. And most of the time people would finally sign the card just to get the process moving, but then the union would lose on the secret ballot. Right. To take away the secret ballot is almost unimaginable. And the second step is, if you sign the card, you get the union and you get an automatic raise.
Right.
This would be a fundamental reunionization of America, which I do not think is in the country's long-term best interest.
Mike, you said the most important decision, though, right now that Obama can make is the Treasury Secretary. What are the names that you've heard that make you think, okay, that's a good, strong choice? What are the names you've heard that make you think, oh, maybe not?
Well, I think number one is Tim Geithner, head of the Federal Reserve in New York, because, and this is unique circumstances, we're in a crisis. He's been living the crisis, working the crisis. He knows what's been done right. He knows the mistakes that have been made. He has tremendous experience, a steady hand. I think everyone would look at that and say, considering the times and the circumstances, that's the right choice. If you go a step away from that, names like Corzine and Sumner, they're certainly competent and certainly have the capabilities to fulfill the position. But I think in these unique circumstances, the smoothest transition would be to pick someone who's been in the fight every step of the way.
What about Volcker?
Oh, Volcker has eminent respect, and at 82, he's still on top of his game, and would inspire tremendous confidence. But again, I think the situation is unique. We are in the middle of a tremendous fight. That phone is ringing at 3 a.m., and you have a man there who's qualified and has been in the fight.
A lot of Republicans and conservatives don't like the redistributive aspect of the tax plan that Obama had floated, right? Taking money from very rich, giving them to people who make less than a certain amount. But you're in a business where you wouldn't mind, I'm assuming, if customers had more cash in their pockets.
I'm for a progressive tax system. It's all a matter of balance. Now, we have to be aware in America, when you look at federal income taxes, 35% of the workers are no longer paying federal income taxes. 1% of the population, or 1% of the most productive people, are paying 40% of all the income taxes. There has to be a balance here. You know, you can't.
Even if you shift this,
if you shift this dramatically to a degree where 50% of America does not participate in federal income taxes, and you have a very tiny percentage paying almost all the taxes, at a certain point, your most productive people say, you know, why do it? The marginal return is not there. So I am for redistribution of wealth. I'm for a progressive tax system, but you have to watch that marginal rate where you hit a tremendous diminishing return and you have a disincentive to take risk and to be productive.
I mean, we could end up, okay, you got 70 before Reagan, then 28 after Reagan, then creeping back up, we're going to be at about 40.
Yeah, and if you live in New York City and you add state and federal taxes, it's 50. That's a big number.
But, you know, 28, 70, what's right? Is it 40? Is it 35? Is it 45? I mean, nobody knows.
All I'm saying,
you want the maximum amount you want the maximum amount of incentive to work with it, to get the most revenue.
You have to be practical. What are the conditions on the ground? We all know that phase. The economy is in crisis. We need to recreate jobs. That has to be the #1 priority, and increasing the marginal tax rate on entrepreneurs at this moment would absolutely be the wrong thing to do.
Mike, it's good to see you.
Good seeing everybody this morning. An historic day.
It really is. It's good to talk to you, Mike Jackson.